What's up, you guys? What's up? What's up? I am so excited for another amazing episode of Living Real TV. I'm Carissa Atkins.
I'm Clara Capano.
And we are here to help you show up, boss up, and find clarity in the middle of life's busyness. And oh my gosh, I am excited for today's conversation.
I am really excited to bring our guest speaker on in a few minutes because I met her on an airplane, of course, and just knew from the start that, we had to get her on the show. So I kind of wrangled her to the ground and I said, I found a guest for us. So we are going to really dive deep into talking about this concept of when is enough enough. So we're going to be diving deep. We're going to go into some strategies for doing all that. But hey, we can't do all these real talks and live real
and get to the end
if we don't have a cocktail. So, Dion, what are we having today?
You know, I have had enough of not drinking rum for one season. So we are going to get this party started again. Today we are going to have hurricanes. So when enough is enough for me, I like to retreat to my safe space in Hawaii and just go back to the beach.
That sounds good. And I love the little umbrellas and the drinks.
Well, you know, whenever there's a hurricane, if you got an umbrella, whoop.
I was like, I've never been in one. Do you need an umbrella?
It might take you for a little trip.
Like Mary Poppins? Is it Mary Poppins?
It's Mary Poppins,
yeah. It's been a long time since I've seen that, but I was pretty sure she put her umbrella up. And
she did. And she had a spoonful of sugar, and I think we're probably getting a little bit of that in the drinks, too.
Oh.
All right, so what are you putting in there?
It starts out with a little fashionola, which is basically a strawberry, pineapple. There's a few other components to it, like passion fruit, and I actually use Granny Smith apples to give it a little bit more of a sour flavor. But you put all those things in a pot, and you basically reduce them with sugar. And so it's a natural syrup made from fruit juices.
Okay, it's a true boss-up drink right there. A little bit of this, a little bit of
like
that.
a fruit salad in a glass.
I know, hey. Any way we can justify a healthy alcoholic beverage?
Anyway, we can justify anything.
We don't have to justify anything.
We're just going to drink it and
enjoy.
It.
Women are bossing up. Are you kidding me?
Then we have our fresh squeezed lime juice.
Oh, yeah, he knows I love that.
I know, I do love that too.
And a little fresh squeezed orange juice also.
I would not normally ever order a hurricane because they're so sweet at like a restaurant, but it's probably because it's like pre-mixed stuff. Yeah, like I know anything Dion puts together is like
amazing.
Dying.
Yeah.
Well.
Only the best for you ladies.
Aww.
Small little miscalculation there, but we got it all put back together. And then our last ingredient is going to be our Plantation Original Dark Rum.
I do love dark rum.
Over light rum?
I like light rum too, but I do like dark rum.
Now, can you just drink the rum on the rocks?
No, I cannot.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't got to that level yet. Maybe it's the low end stuff that I've tried that I'm like, oh God. I used to think that about whiskeys, and remember when in season 2, Dion gave us some fantastic whiskey drinks. Like, I was like, oh Lord, this is amazing.
That was good.
You guys, you can get every single one of our recipes if you are loving what you see and want to try it for your home party. If you're not going to hire Dion to do it, you can definitely go to our Living Real TV website and get all the recipes there.
You can also hire me at cocktailcouch.com.
Yes.
All right, what are we listening to? What song are we shaking to today?
You don't even want to know, but just because it's Party in the USA.
Love it. Look at this gun.
I know.
It out in the off season.
I think so.
So fit.
It's my favorite part when he pulls up, pours it all in the glass.
That's like a magic though, like when they hit it with their, I forget, I think it was like season 1 he told us there's a trick to that.
Yep, there's a seam that's actually in the glass and no one really ever thinks to just pop it one good time.
Pop the seam.
Look how pretty those are.
Aww. Those are tropical.
So
Yeah,
if
I
you
could
look-
definitely see sitting on the beach with one of these, or 3.
So when I made my first batch of Fashionola, my wife and I got to glass number 4, and I was like, okay,
I think
one of us needs to go to bed. And there we go.
Work of art.
Thank you, Dion.
Thank you, ladies. I love being on the show. Like, I appreciate you so much.
Well, I think this is something I definitely could not get enough of, but let's go ahead and cheers, ladies.
Love
Oh,
it.
this looks amazing.
Let's try.
Wow.
Ooh, okay. I've never even had a hurricane like this. That's the quality difference here.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even think this is a hurricane.
I might need just a few moments of just
a moment of silence.
taking that in, because that's pretty amazing. So, yeah, definitely get the recipe for this one. That's
After
pretty
6,
good.
I might say, enough is enough. We gotta go.
Well, before we dive in to Enough is Enough, I just want to go ahead and introduce our wonderful guest. This is Lindsey Weigel, and as I mentioned, we met on a plane.
We did.
We actually did not talk until the very end when we were stranded on the tarmac for about an hour, and then we're like, oh my God, it's another me.
Why were we talking this whole? We were both so tired.
I know.
It had been a long week, and but I was thankful for a snow delay in Denver, so
Yes.
we could connect.
We did.
Yes.
So we
yes.
became fast friends.
We
So.
did. Yes.
All right, ladies, our question for today is, how do you want people to remember you when you are no longer here? So, Carissa, what about for you?
First off, that's like a really big question.
It is a big question
And I
on such a
do-
small card.
It's a good thing we have a really big drink. I say it's a big question because, that's an important thing to really ask yourself is to, what do I really want to be remembered by? And I would honestly probably have to say is the legacy that I want to leave behind is a legacy of empowerment and strength, because I'm on a mission, right? I'm on a mission to help women, boss up, get fit, become confident powerhouse leaders. And when I die and I'm no longer on this earth and my kids are even old, I still want people to think, Carissa Atkins, she is a woman who stands in her truth and she teaches other women how to be strong. And I think that would just be really important. I think I would feel so incredibly blessed when I'm dying on my deathbed and I'm like, I did everything I said I wanted to do and I helped everyone that I could possibly help.
Yeah.
So what about you, Clara?
For me, and again, it's that same idea of, the legacy that you're leaving behind. And, my sort of mantra is always that I want to motivate and inspire others to greatness daily. So that I hope, when people are surrounded and talking about me, not only is it my humor and my kindness, but also that I really, again, impacted them. I want to be a very strong role model for, today's woman and tomorrow's woman. So I think doing that.
Lindsey?
What about you?
It is a big question, and there's two big things. One is the idea of helping people live their best life every day, right? Is that they understand that they get to have control and power over how they spend their time and their energy, right? So helping women get there. But I think kindness is the biggest one for me. Kindness and really going out of my way to help make the lives of other people better is the most important thing for me.
And I think that's really an important thing to hit on, because I think sometimes as strong women, it's that fine line of we have to be assertive, aggressive, people can say bitchy at times to do that, and we have to be able to manage that with the harmony of kindness, because we do want to be kind in what we're doing, but we don't want to be taken advantage of.
Well, and sometimes kind can come across as rude, because I'm really kind by giving women honest truth. Sometimes they don't like to
when you
hear
told
it.
me I needed lotion today
I
before
did.
the show.
But I knew you were going to take it from love, right? As a speaker, and we were talking about this one day, I remember, you can get some pretty nasty feedback on something, and, I take it as if I'm being honest and I'm triggering you, in a way, that's kindness, because someone needs to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Someone, the people in your life who love you, they sometimes they want everything best for you, and so they think they're being kind by not telling you the truth. So like I told you, I'm a strong shot of tequila, so sometimes you like my kindness and sometimes it comes across as Damn, girl.
Well, and I think it's also, are you coming from a place of love?
Yeah.
You know, and again, if you're coming from a place of love, it should be, they understand. You know, but I think kindness, there's not enough of this in this world.
Agreed. Yes. Agreed.
Just little things. I was at the airport yesterday coming here, and oh my God, this man was in the TSA line, and he was clearly having a bad day. And, you know, I think the other gentleman behind me is like, oh, somebody needs their mommy. But it's just little things of, you know, he was all frazzled, and I took his bin, and I put his bin away. And, you know, he stopped for a moment. He's like, oh, thank you. And it's like, you know, I can tell you need a little help right now.
Yeah.
You know, so again, just, and I think I see that a lot, traveling especially, is it's, you know, people don't do it every day like I do, and it's different for some of them. So again, just sometimes opening that door. Again, we talked in an earlier episode about the idea of the small things, and kindness is one of those things where it doesn't take a lot of effort, and it can really have a strong impact.
A big thing we've started doing in our family is monthly sort of service projects. And because when the pandemic hit, it was really hard to figure out how do I cultivate that in my kids when they can't go anywhere and do anything kind. And so we've been doing sort of a monthly thing that we, whether it's making Valentines and donating them to nursing homes on Valentine's Day or whatever. So we're trying to find active ways to put kindness in the world.
I love that.
I think
my goal.
we were backstage and you said something about our kid. He's like, so you teach people how to be kind?
To be nice.
How to be nice. You teach people how to be nice. Like that is kind of my job. Yeah, professionally we work on how do I present myself so that I can connect and help other individuals. And so it is kind of how do you be nice. Yeah.
So with that said, let's go ahead and start transitioning into what we're talking about today. But give us a little background on you. Who are you? What is it that you do for a living?
Yes, so I am managing partner at Blue Water Advisory. We are a boutique consulting firm located in Sykesville, Maryland, so about a half an hour west of Baltimore. We partner with organizations and leaders to help their individuals and their teams work most effectively together and most enjoyably together, right? It's one thing to be effectively working together. It's also another thing to like the work that you do and the people that you do it with. So we use tools, training, and coaching to help teams work at their best and their highest use. So that's
Have you always been in like a role like this, or I want to know your story.
Like,
what did Clara hear that was like, you need to be with us?
Exactly.
It's a long and winding path, but this space has always been where I wanted to work. I worked for Marriott for about a decade, where a lot of what we talk about is how to create influence, right, in leadership and in the work that you do. And so, I mean, talk about needing to create influence. As an event manager, I was 24, I looked about 14, worked at the Detroit Marriott, the Renaissance Center, so it was 100,000 square feet of meeting space, 1,300 sleeping rooms, a union property in GM's world headquarters. It was a beast of a job, and so it was the job that taught me that I can figure anything out, right? I might go cry in my car after, but like I've got it here, I will figure it out, and then we'll deal with the emotion of this disaster later. And so it was this amazing opportunity to really learn how to not only, I was in charge of everything, but I had authority over nothing, right?
Yes. Yes.
And
then there.
Right, exactly. And so it was all about building relationships, calling in favors, asking people to be on my team to help accomplish something that was probably impossible to pull off. And so it was an amazing job to have. I always say it was a great job to have had. I'm very glad I don't work those hours or that that's not my day anymore. But it was an amazing job to have had right out of college because it really taught me I can tackle anything. I can figure anything out.
Yeah.
And so then I spent about a decade in hospitality, joined a few other organizations, and found my home at Blue Water 8.5 years ago. And this is my forever home. I love Blue Water.
It's just the shoe fit.
Exactly.
It is. I'm a big believer in like the universe opening doors and getting you to the right spot. And I always knew there was something at the end, and I just sort of walked through each door until it got me to there. And once I hit Blue Water, I was like, "This is it. Like this was the thing this was the home I was looking for." And all those spaces before made sense as to the skills that I needed to learn and develop to be where I am. So
everything happens for the right reason.
Correct.
So you asked the question of what really was it that was like, oh, we need to get her on this show, and it was this little thing right here. So this is her book.
Okay.
It's called Enough Already. You can get it on Amazon.
You sure can.
But when she started talking about this idea, my story was about how I had my big breakdown that led me to my breakthrough. And you kind of have the same path. And as I've been reading your book, every page I'm like, yeah. So, tell us a little bit about how this book came about for you.
Yeah, so I mean, it really started from the fact that I don't know if you can tell, but I'm kind of a type A personality. Do it all, take it all.
I would never even have any other type.
Just wrap your head around that for a minute, ladies. I know it's hard to see. I really was a person who've always just like, I will figure it out, right? Pull yourself up by the bootstraps, make it happen. Like, I'll take that off your plate because I
And pause
I can
right
do
there.
It. Yeah.
Where did that trait come from?
I think I was just born
You
with it.
believe that you were born with that
Having
trait.
seen my 7-year-old daughter from an infant to 7, I was born with it, and so was she.
Okay. Some people think like you're a born leader, you can learn leadership. Like,
no,
so
I
always
mean
like to,
that very assertive. Like my first grade teacher, Mrs. Homan, told my parents that if there was going to be a queen of the world, I was going to be
she
her.
will be it.
In first grade.
So we'll have to get her autograph today.
Exactly, yeah.
So I'm not interested in being queen of the world.
Okay.
But so yeah, I very much just believe that's just sort of who I arrived on the planet, right? And seeing genetically my daughter arrive the same way, I think it is just it's in my genealogy. And so I sort of spent my whole life doing it all and trying to be it all. I think, externally, but also very much internally. And I got to a point where I have 2 kids that are 20 months apart. And so I had 2 kids under 3 at the time that this sort of happened. And I'm a managing partner in this consulting firm, and I love my clients, and we're busy. And I thought I could do it all. And there is an end to the amount of things you can do, but it never occurred to me that I had a capacity limit.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody else does.
Yeah, like they can't handle that job, but I can take it.
Exactly.
And so I had a day where sort of it all hit me, and it just burnout washed over me. Call a nervous breakdown, call whatever you want, but it was a life-altering moment that said, this is not sustainable. You have a real problem. And so it was basically 2 days that I was like not functional. Like I just I couldn't get myself together. And so I realized that I had this capacity limit that shocked me.
You were like, what has happened?
And I remember in your books that your friends tried to even have an intervention with you.
Which I think is what caused the awareness of that situation. They did that a few days before. They were like, no one can live like this. Like you are skiing. As we say, Blue Art, you're skiing way too past your tips, right? And I was like, I'm fine. And that's kind of the mantra of my book.
Words,
I'm fine.
Right. I said that like a million times. I got this. It's cool. I got it. Yeah.
But deep down, you're like, if one more person asks me if I'm fine.
They keep asking me if I'm fine. I've clearly got this under
One
control.
conversation away from a meltdown.
And so sort of as I started to come out of this fog, I realized that I could never allow myself to get there again. I was like, because I didn't see it coming.
Yeah.
Which means I need to figure out where it came from so that I can make sure that I never get to that point again.
Yeah.
And the book is really about this journey of uncovering, basically peeling back all these layers of the onion to go, at the core of what was really going on was that I didn't think I was enough as I was. And so everything I was doing is I was trying to prove to other people, but mostly to myself, that I was enough. I'm a good enough mom. I'm a good enough employee. I'm a good enough friend. I'm a good enough volunteer. I'm good enough, right? And I was always looking for that external validation. And it's so rewarding when you get it. You're like, look. Like my favorite words was when people would say that, like, I just don't know how you do it all.
Yeah.
God, that's like my badge of honor, right? Oh, I know. Thanks for seeing me. I know, right? And so it would give me that momentary filling of my enoughness tank. Yeah. But then I was always searching for that next hit, right? And so then when someone didn't say that to me,
it's just as bad as drugs.
I worked harder, right? I worked harder. And so the whole journey is really about sort of peeling back the guilt that I felt as a mom and as a human in general, right? It was about the not taking good enough care of myself, right? There's a difference between self-care and caring for yourself, right? Yeah. Self-care is an activity that we tend to just put on a to-do list and check off. I got a manicure, so I should be fine now. That is not how that works. Yes. It's believing that you are worthy of caring for, right?
It's a really great distinction.
And so the book is really about the layers of these onions that I peeled back to realize that the core of this was that I was just constantly trying to fill this enoughness tank and realizing that that's never going to happen externally. Filling your enoughness tank only comes from the inside. And so the second part is really how did I turn off those tapes that told me I needed to hear all those things and find all those things, and how did I fill that enoughness tank? So it's not a how-to book for anyone, right? It's not a 10 steps to being enough. because I think everyone's journey really is so personal.
I need the 10 steps.
I know, everyone wants the 10 steps. I even talk about in the book, I'm like, I know probably at this point you're looking for the roadmap, right?
But if that's the niche, right? If you're looking for the 10 steps, because you're the checker, right? You're like, if I could just do X, I will be successful at filling this enough tank.
But then you're not doing the work
for you,
right? But then you're not doing the work to figure out what your enoughness tank is all about, right?
Yeah. So when you went through this, how old were your kids, and how did they respond, and how did your husband kind of respond to all of this?
So they were thankfully younger. So I think they were probably 4 and 2.5 or 3. So they were young, which was helpful. And my husband was really great. He was basically like, just you do you, man. Like you know what I mean? Like, because I was like walking around like nearly comatose anyway, so there wasn't much he could have needed me to do because I was sort of just in this daze. And I think part of it too was that I never let myself not be okay, right? Like I was always just, I'm fine,
right?
I'll get it together, right? And I hit this point where I thought, I need to just sit in not okay for a while. Like I need to just be here and figure out what this is and where it's coming from so that I can get to the other side. I talk about this idea of sort of the mud puddle in my book. And I had an amazing therapist named Dr. Jill, who I love and adore. And she talked to me about this concept of the mud puddle, which is that we have these mud puddles in our lives, right? And which are the things we need to tackle, that we need to look at for ourselves, that we need to work through in order to get to the other side. And so we sort of like start to walk through the mud puddle, and then it gets deep and it gets scary and it gets muddy and we're like, ooh, and then we walk around the mud puddle. But the mud puddle is always there, right? And so it was this idea of like, I need to walk through this mud puddle so that I can get to the other side and be done with this mud puddle. Because
my husband literally says that, because I am one that I'm like, he's like, babe, some people just need to go through the crap.
Yes.
And I'm like, he's like, babe, go through the crap with me.
I know. I talk a lot.
Grab hands and let's go.
Yeah, I talk a lot with my friend of that episode, the scene in the movie The Shawshank Redemption, when he's crawling through the shit, you know, literally. But again, sometimes we gotta crawl through and keep pursuing the shit to get to the freedom that we were looking for.
Well, and she gave me this great visual, which was this idea. She's like, it's gonna get to your knees, and it's gonna get to your hips, and it's gonna get to your shoulders, and it's gonna get to your chin, and then right under your nose. And you're gonna be sure that if you take one more step, you're going to drown. She said, but the next step you take when it's underneath your nose is when you're on your way out of the mud puddle. And so it was a really powerful visual to, in those moments of like, I just want to turn and run because this is too hard. It was such a great visual to say, but you're so close. Like you're so close to figuring this lifelong enoughness tank void out. And so it was, and the book honestly came out, I got out of the shower one Tuesday morning, and the title hit me, and all of these milestones hit me, and I was like, I think I have to write all this down. And then I was 30,000 words in, and I was like, I think I'm writing a book. Like, I guess I'm writing a book now. So it was sort of an accidental book that I wrote. But what has been the coolest part is how many people, just like you said in the beginning, is this is my story too. It might look different. It might have different, you know, like they might not be a perfectionist like I am. They might have anxiety. Like the some of the parts of the story are different, but the journey is so similar in so many people, and it's been so great to be able to create space where we can talk about that, and where we can, my goal of the book is really to help people create community, so they have spaces to talk about what does this look like in their world, and how does this impact them, and how can they work through these things in a meaningful way.
And Lindsey, I want you to, you to read that out loud.
It says, I am enough.
It is. That's awesome. You know, and I show it to you because it's an anchor, right? As a coach, and you know, I teach a lot of my clients how to anchor in certain things, and a lot of women struggle with the I'm not enough.
Definitely.
And in the second half, we are going to dive in on strategies, right? How to first feel like this, what is enough, and what does that even look like for everyone? Because that looks different for everyone. We're gonna kind of debunk all of that, really define it. But yeah, if you're cool with that, I'd love to just like, once we come back from break, let's just go straight into strategies.
I'm in.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. You guys, we are going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. And when we do, we're talking strategies. So if you kind of struggle with that itty-bitty shitty committee inside your head that says, you're not enough, grab a cocktail, get a piece of paper and a pen, and listen up. We'll be right back.
365 Daily Hustle is a global health coaching company helping purpose-driven women boss up and get healthy so that they can truly show up and thrive in the world. We help women lose weight, gain energy, and feel sexy and confident in their bodies. We help women create sustainable habits that support a positive mindset, nutrition, exercise plans, stress relief, and of course, self-care. If you're tired of feeling like a failure when it comes to your weight loss and health goals, please visit our website at 365dailyhustle.com or join the Healthy Hustle Facebook community today for healthy tips, recipes, workouts, and more.
Welcome back, everyone. We are getting ready to dive into some strategies around being able to take in and start to realize that we are enough and we're pretty good at what we're doing. So we are here with the amazing Lindsey Weigel, who is talking to us about her story of when she knew or had to learn she was enough. You know, Chris, I want to ask you, what was a moment in your life where do you think that moment came for you, where you had your defining moment?
Oh, there's so many. I think life is full of these moments. We just have to slow the F down and see it. But I think the moment that really obviously got me to where I am today was that rock bottom moment sitting in a doctor's office, when someone, a doctor specifically, right, when she says, if you keep up the pace you're on, you will not see your daughter be 12. You will not live 10 years. I mean, giving you a death sentence. You would have thought that was the enough moment, right? But like was so stuck in my ways, and I was so afraid to feel all of the feels and let it all out. So when she told me all of this, I just packed it down and I got angry instead.
Fine. You were fine. Yeah.
I was like, I'm not that bad, and I still then started blaming and making the excuses, and I tucked that way down because I didn't want to feel it. Like nobody wants to like that's a huge truth bomb. Like. Yeah. Oh, I'm not even going to make it to 37, and I'm 37 now. I cannot imagine my daughter not having a mom to practice how to drive and learn how to cook and all these things. So you'd think that would have been the enough moment, but that was the moment that triggered the enoughness, right? Yeah. So then the next day, sitting on the couch, I wish I had the cocktail, but I had coffee in hand. I'm bawling because it's finally hit that oh my gosh. Woe is me, I was still playing the victim, and how dare this doctor say these things to me, she doesn't know me, and blah, blah, blah. She called me overweight. I was 5 foot tall. Well, I am 5 foot tall. I'm still shrinking now, so I'm like, but 213 pounds is what I was, and I was obese, and so sitting there on a couch very much like this, I looked over at an end table, and I saw a picture of my mom. And, for the first time, I didn't see the hustler. I didn't see the hard worker, the single mom raising 4 kids. I didn't see the entrepreneur. I saw myself, and I saw, what my future was really going to look like had I kept being on that pace. I grew up with an overweight mom. I didn't think anything was wrong with being overweight. I'm like, she still got shit done. She's an amazing woman. So why would I think anything of that? And she always cracked jokes because it was her own way of dealing with her obesity. So I grew up with that openness, and so I didn't think anything was wrong with being overweight. Obviously, I didn't feel sexy, I didn't feel confident, I didn't have energy, all the physical things, but I didn't think that it was ever gonna stop me. But yeah, sitting there, I was like, wow, if I don't change my life, I won't be here. Yeah. And my kids will be cleaning up after me and living without a mom. And that was the day that I was like, enough is enough. Mm-hmm. You are going to stop making excuses. You're going to stop blaming people for all of the life you have, the money you don't have, all that stuff. Because that's the easy thing, is to be the victim. It really is the easy thing. And so that enough moment, it empowered me, but I gave myself permission to just say, you know what, screw it. I'm going to do it. And because I know the alternative. You are on 2 paths, you can see it. And thank God the doctor, that was like the speed bump, right? The doctor had to tell me that to open my eyes.
To talk about kindness earlier today.
I was the worst to myself. I'm like, you're so fat, no one's going to love you. And this is not even my stories. These are stories that I've heard as a child, So, I've had an enough moment, and that's just one, Oh my God, what about you?
And I've shared my story, of when Nicholas was about 3 and him taking the phone out of my hand, because for me, enough, I had to find enough by checking off the boxes. If I have the car, if I have the house, if I have the job, if I have the money, then I'll be enough. Yeah. And what happened in that moment is I realized that only thing I needed to be enough at was me and showing up. Like all Nicholas really needed was his mom to just show up and be present. And so I think that was a real defining moment of me really changing the script of saying, okay, what does enough really mean to me? And once I got more clear on that definition, then I could start to move forward. So tell us again, I know your book is not a 10-step program on how to, but what would you say are some of the biggest takeaways? What, should we as women, especially working women, what are some of the things we should maybe be aware of and be on the lookout for?
Yeah, great question. And I think that it is true because, one of the biggest things, this is what I think one of my favorite sort of vignettes, the book is really like in vignette more than chapter. Like there's these little stories of moments along the way. And one of them is, it was a few days before Mother's Day, and I was looking on Facebook, and there was a quote that said, "A good mother is a woman who, upon seeing that there are 4 pieces of pie for 5 people, declares she never liked pie anyways." And I thought, why is that? Why is the definition of a good mom?
Someone's not getting a piece.
Right? We could split a piece. We could make more pie. There's 100 options other than the message that I hear and the message I tell myself. And I think societally there are lots of those very subtle messages.
You have to come last. Good moms come last.
Good moms put everyone before themselves. Not only do they not eat pie, but they tell everyone they don't like it anymore.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? And so for me, it was really about examining what tapes do I play in my head all of the time that keep me where I'm at. There's another moment in the book when I was sort of closer to my journey, closer to the end of my journey, where I remember looking at the end of my bed and I had some clothes that needed to be put away. And I was like, oh, I got to put those away when I get back from work. And I stopped dead in my tracks and I thought, when did that tape switch? Because before my tape would have been, well, a better woman would have gotten up early to put those away. A better mom would have making sure that these were put away before the kids got up, right? There wasn't a place or a thing I could do that wasn't filled with guilt or a better person could have or would have.
Yeah,
so it was these tapes that nobody else heard, that nobody expected. Nobody in my house was like, oh, Lindsey, those 4 pairs of pajamas on the end of the bed. Nobody cared.
Those need to get put away.
But it's so true, and it's again this, this societal definition of what a good mom is. And I love something that you said earlier is the idea that, you can't make a how-to book because it's different for everyone. And I think, again, we need to start understanding what is it for me, because the way that I show up as a good mom, I remember after Nicholas was just born, and within 3 days of him being born, I was actually offered a promotion.
Wow.
And it was the job, it was my dream job. So needless to say, I was like, yes. And I remember there were a few people in my circle, and their response was, you're being a bad mom. You're neglecting your family.
Also, I love that people feel comfortable having those conversations with us. But yes.
And first of all, this conversation never happened with my husband at the time. Right. There was never discussion of that. But, but for me, I didn't see that because not following through on my dreams, that wasn't going to make me a better mom. Granted, I had clearly some other issues I needed to address on my journey. But again, the fact that there's so many preconceived notions, and that's why I think we struggle so much and have so much guilt and shame and anxiety and depression, because nobody can live up to this standard that has been created of what a good by somebody else. Probably a man, not to be rude, but probably a man.
Probably, just everyone's life is so different. Everyone stresses out about such different things, but it is, and it's so easy to cast that stone, right? When I was trying to get healthy and on that first journey, I was like, I got to go to bed earlier, right? I got to go to the gym. I got to spend time away from my kids. I got to go have me time. I got to, all these things, and people are like, I can't believe your kid, you tuck your kids into bed? And I'm like, yeah, I go to bed at 8 o'clock. They can stay up later. They don't get up at 3:45. That's just who it is. And it's or I get my kids to, make their own food. And they're like, you don't make your kids' lunches? What? I'm like, no, and they walk to school.
Oh my God, what? Carissa, oh my goodness.
And not that that's bad or good, but it's that's what worked for me. Correct. And it's how I perceive it to be is I'm like, I'm raising independent kids. Like my kid can make sushi, and my kid can make me dinner, and my kid can make themselves dinner and do their own laundry. And like, I'm not there to be their everything.
Right.
Especially if I'm not even being me. My kid was not gonna have a mom had I been on that pace of let me do everything for everyone except for myself.
So what would you say are some of the biggest things that have changed in your world since?
That's a great question.
Since you've been on this journey.
So it's funny because I say this all the time, is that I think if you looked at me externally, my life probably doesn't look that different than it did before. I still am a type A personality.
Sure.
I still have too much on my plate. I thrive in that. I love that, right? I operate much better at 105% than I do at 70%.
Sure.
Me too.
It's just how I'm wired, right? And so my enoughness journey and self-care and all the things that I needed, the removal of the tapes and the perfection, like all those things, wasn't about like being like a yoga instructor and like kumbaya all the time, right? Like that wasn't like, that's not who I am, and it's great if you are, but that wasn't my path, right? I didn't need to switch everything about myself. What changed about me is the way I talked to myself and the way that I was able to decide that I wasn't going to live on autopilot anymore. I was going from email to email, from task to task, to event to event, to day to day, just surviving each day. And now I realize, like, I get to decide what my life looks like, right? It doesn't
Say it one more time.
I get to decide what my life looks like.
Amen. We can be done now.
Yeah, exactly.
Make a strategy.
Right? But it's not until you really confront what is keeping me where I'm at.
Yep.
What are those self-limiting beliefs? What are those tapes that I'm playing that take control of your day as opposed to you taking control of your day? And we talked about this in the right before the show. Is I decided this summer I'm going to work Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays. I'm going to make that work because that's what I need to make for my life. We've had an incredibly busy Q1 and Q2. And so for what we call work-life harmony in the work that we do, I am dedicated to creating a boundary that says I will work my butt off Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, but I am spending Friday through Monday with my kids while they're off in the summer. That is
with yourself.
correct.
If they have something else to do.
Correct. Well, they have things on Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, which is why
Strategic.
right, exactly, and because I love that opportunity to be able to spend that time with them, and you're right, and to be able to take that time for myself as well, which I think is incredibly important. And I think that part of that process really is, there's this woman I was sitting next to on an airplane, of course.
Our home away from home.
I know, right? And she was going down to run the Disney Princess Marathon, and she said it was her second marathon. I was like, sorry, are you feeling good about it? Like, what's going on? And long story short, she said, my first marathon did not go well. She's like, I trained, I was knocking marathons out of the park when I was at home, but when I got to the marathon, what I realized was that I was dying in the marathon. So she's like, when I looked back at what happened, she said, what I realized is that when I was running at home by myself, and I could run at my own cadence.
Sure.
But when I started running around other people, I was running to their cadence and not mine.
Oh my God, what a great analogy.
Right?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
And she said, like, and this is like in the middle of my enoughness journey, and she was like, what I realized is if I run at my own pace, I'm gonna be just fine.
Yes.
And I thought, oh my gosh, like how many times have I been running at someone else's pace that's too fast or at someone else's pace that's too slow?
Like,
right?
okay, God, I hear you.
Right, I know. Like, put that in a notebook for later, right?
She's like, I need to stop talking to people on the plane.
So for me, I think a lot of it is recognizing that you own your life and that you get to decide how you spend your days, right? We only have so many precious days on the planet. We get to decide how we spend them.
Yeah, giving ourselves, again, that permission that it doesn't have to look like anybody else. It's what's going to work for you. And if you are married, what's going to work for us, for our family.
Correct.
And that's all that really matters.
I'm afraid to stand up for that.
Yeah.
I mean, this is your family.
I know.
For goodness sakes.
So do you have any specific, like, either tips or strategies that you do? Like for me, I know I do my weekly business planning. I know Carissa does her food prepping. Are there certain tips that you have so that when you are working, you're super focused so that you can, like, what are some of the things that you've implemented into your business side so that you can find that harmony?
Yeah, for me, it's really thinking about what does 6 weeks out look like, right? And I get really, really strategic about what do the next 6 weeks look like? Where do I need to have my energy? Because our calendar, because of the work that we do, people don't call and say, hey, we need help in our business 6 months from now.
Sure.
They're like, we need help right now. Things are on fire. Can you come help us now, right? Or we have this amazing opportunity, right? Like, we need help now. And so our calendars, 6 months from now, who knows what the world looks like? I know what this world looks like. So for us, it's really about looking 6 weeks ahead and saying, what can I control in these 6 weeks? So we have, we talk about, there's a book that we work with frequently from Ron Price, it's a book called Growing Influence. And he talks about the 3 circles, right? What do I control? What can I collaborate on?
Yeah.
And then what do I worry about?
Yeah.
And that your control circle is your biggest, right? Or should be, ideally, that your control circle is your biggest, right? And then it's what can I influence, right? If things are outside of my control, but who do I need to bring into my circle to help influence this situation to be better, right? What resources do I need? And then how do I shrink that circle of worry is really what, so I try to think of what does 6 weeks look like? Yeah. And then how do I get my circles in the right
That alone
space?
is a different strategy, because most people go 90-day, some people go like 4 weeks, like you're like 6 weeks. That's the magic number. It's not 90 days, it's like 75. That's the magic. I like it.
And I love the idea of these circles, and I know a lot of people talk about the different circles, but I think so many times we put so much of our focus and energy on the worry circle.
The worry circle.
When most of the things are out of our control. And I always say that when I'm teaching, I always tell people you really only have control over 2 things. The first thing is your mindset.
Yes.
And then the second thing is the actions that you
your
take.
behaviors,
You know, and it's like those are really the only things that you have control over. So much of it is in that middle one, the influence, which is, and I think that's a thing that women struggle with too, because we like to be control freaks.
Yes,
Nobody can do it the way that I can do it. And again, I'm fine.
So much time coaching on that
I'm
topic.
fine. I've got it all under control. And I always tell people, it's not that you can or cannot. It's a matter of should you do it.
But you gotta let go of that how. You gotta let go of the idea that you have to do it all, right? Like you really do, and that's a process all on its own. That you could work with just one coach for 6 weeks on alone, because you do. That stems from an enoughness thing, you know, of I got to do it all, no one else can do it. But I really want to quickly go back to something you said earlier, because you're like, you have to just decide. I think so many people like think that like their life is happening to them, but they forget they're in control of themselves, which ties into that. But you just get to decide. So if you don't like your bank account number, like what's in your bank, you get to decide to make more money. If you don't like where you live, why are you living there? I mean, I always get on the phone, they're like, well, I live in this, it's a really expensive place to live. And I'm like, well, why aren't you moving? Are you stuck there? Is your feet in cement? Like, what's going on?
One of my favorite quotes is, you know, again, if you don't like where you are, you're not a tree. Move.
Even a tree, I'll deplant you. Come on. Like, it just drives me crazy that women, like somewhere along the lines, we forgot that we are in control.
I think it's because we're so busy. We're so busy doing all of the things that we don't take a minute to go, is this working for me? Am I enjoying any of this? Or am I just doing all of it? I always call it the doing badge, right? I was very focused on the doing badge. I get to the end of the day and I'd be like, all the things I did, that must have been a successful day. I don't know that to me, that doesn't define success anymore.
And I love that idea of, again, the checks and balances of, is this even bringing me joy?
Right.
Because again, it still may need to get done.
Correct.
But it doesn't mean that it needs to be done by you. Like for me, I do not enjoy doing housework. I'm not good at it because I don't enjoy it. But it has to get done. So I hire it out because it gets done. I come home from a trip and my house is beautiful and clean and smells wonderful, but I didn't have to do it. And so I think, again, really looking at what are the things that really bring you joy? You know, in my business, I was talking with my coach the other day, and all I really want to do is this. You know, I really want to talk with people, interview people, and do those things. And I don't find joy in a lot of the kind of the back end networking, the following up, you know, or getting, you know, a virtual assistant to help with a lot of that stuff. So again, I think it's really important, you know, to realize that all you have to do is, again, show up as the best version of yourself, but really focus on what is it that you specifically need to do and what brings you joy.
Well, there's the, I think it's The Big Leap, where it's like,
it's a great book.
If it ain't in your zone of genius, you don't need to be doing it, right? Like, I mean, at the end of the day, I thought as a business owner, I had to do the marketing, I had to do all the coaching, I had to do the emails, I had to do onboarding, like all the stuff.
Because nobody else can do it as good.
Yeah, heck no. And it's not even, I just feel like at that point, I had the belief of I don't have the money to spend in my business yet. I have no problem delegating. I learned a long time ago, like delete, delegate, or do, right? Like if I can't, So I did learn that, but until this last year, 6 months, maybe a shift, I hired almost everything that I don't 100% either have to do or enjoy, right? So it's like the DMs, the marketing, all those, the accounting. I'm like, well, sure, I could do that and save me a lot of money, but I'm like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do my taxes. I don't want to do any of that. And so I'm like, I love cleaning, but I'm like, but I don't want to drive. So the very next thing that I'll hire is a freaking driver because I hate driving. Like,
that's a great thing too. You can get a lot done. But I think, again, going back to, if I choose to do this thing, what am I then not doing? And for me, if I have to do those things, whether it's 30 minutes or 4 hours or whatever it is, that's time that I'm not investing in doing the things that are in my circle.
But the point I guess I wanted to quickly make, though, is I've never made more money in the last 6 months than I ever have. When I was trying to do it all.
To save a buck.
To save $1, right? And now it's like, money just flows to me. This is so easy. Right, and yes, I had to do work with a coach on my money mindset, of course.
Sometimes the biggest expense we have is the money we don't make because we're trying so hard to save a buck over here. Whereas if we invest our time in our circle of genius, that's where we're really going to make more money and be happier.
Yes.
I mean, I work, and I know that you two too. It's like I work really hard, but the same thing. I'm trying really hard to only work about 3.5 days a week, especially over the summer. But I work during those times. You know, and that's what it is you got to be focused. So
someone asked me my podcast, right? She goes, well, I think it was in season 2 of my podcast. And someone called and said, hey, I know you're new to this network. It's, the Transformation Talk Radio Network. She said, what's been your ROI? What have you gotten from it? I was like, are you talking money-wise? She's like, yeah. I was like, nothing. I was like, but what I get out of it every freaking week is joy and confidence and fun. And that to me is way more important than making a buck on my podcast. Yeah. And she was like floored. She was like, you don't make it. I was like, no. But my expectation wasn't to be season 2, I better be making millions. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
That's an unrealistic thing. But just funny story on joy, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and I think we often default to what does success look like for other people?
Yes.
How many followers do I have? And all of those things, right? How much money do I make? As opposed to deciding, what does success look like for me in my life? And really taking a pause to say, it means I get to spend as much time with myself and with my kids as I can and still have the lifestyle I want to live, right?
And what does joy look like?
Exactly.
Yeah. So in our last few minutes together today, we could continue this conversation for so long, but what would maybe be like one piece of advice, for women out there if they're sort of teetering on the edge? What would you maybe say to them?
Oh, so there was a quote that I read that I love. Most of my book is like experiences that triggered me to think about something differently, right? And to go, oh, the Lorax, you're so smart, right? And like all these like different things, like as my kids are watching on the couch. But there was a quote by Anne Lamott that I read that said something about a lighthouse doesn't go running around an island trying to like shine its light on everyone. It stands proudly in where it is. I am so the lighthouse, right? Like I am just like frantically running, like let me help, let me do, right? And as opposed to saying no, like let me stand proudly in who I am, the value I bring, let me figure out what that is, and then let me stand proudly in it, and let me help where I'm supposed to help, as opposed to trying to be all things to all people and really helping no one, right? Especially not myself. And so I think it's about figuring out what is my lighthouse and how do I stand there proudly in that space. So
I love that. Well, what an amazing episode. Again, Lindsey, I'm so grateful that our plane was grounded due to
Delta.
snow. I know.
So.
So that we were able to, talk. And I love the messages that you are sharing. I love that you put your emotions into words so that other women don't have to feel so alone. Because again, it is a very individual journey, but at the same time, we're all on the journey together. So very grateful for that. We want to be able to gift you with our book. Author in
we'll
doing
sign
that.
an exchange.
Absolutely. So, and then for those of you at home, we just want to thank you so much for joining us today for another powerful and impactful episode. We appreciate you watching, staying with us, supporting us, and we are looking forward to our next time together. Until then, I'm Clara Capano.
And I'm Carissa Atkins.
Keep living real.